Well, welcome back, everyone, and thank you again for joining me for this, the last day of the virtual 2020 Informs annual meeting. We hope you've thoroughly enjoyed this experience, and the best part is that you'll still have 3 months of access to all of the sessions that were presented this last week. Don't forget to stop by the exhibit hall and check out the booths. This morning, I'm joined by Jeff Cohen, Inform's Director of Public Affairs and Marketing, and the one who has spearheaded our advocacy efforts since they began in 2018. Hey, Jeff.
Hello, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you, and congratulations on becoming an Informs Fellow. I know all of your peers and friends are very excited for you.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. So let's just dive right on in here. Let's talk about the Advocacy Initiative and what are the ways that Informs members can participate in it, and what do they need to do to get involved?
Great. Well, thanks for asking. The advocacy effort has really been a fantastic program since it was adopted by the board a couple of years ago. And in essence, we're trying to expand the reach and impact of Informs members and raise the awareness of operations research and analytics and data science among policymakers and influencers. So that would include think tanks, trade associations, the media, members of Congress, people who work elsewhere in the federal government. And it includes all kinds of work that we do, including sharing our content, bringing in members of Informs for briefings with policymakers, talking to reporters, and really pushing every lever we can to, almost from a surround sound perspective, influence the awareness and the dialogue and the appreciation for the impact that you and your colleagues have when it comes to saving lives and saving money and solving problems.
Well, that's great. That's great. It's a fantastic initiative. Now, in normal times, that's wonderful to be so active and showing that level of advocacy. But now, this past year, between the presidential election, COVID-19, the economy, and fundamental societal questions really consuming a lot of the nation's focus, how can Informs members really stand out and make an impact on the policy world?
Thanks, Glenn. That's a great question because it has been the busiest, strangest in some ways, and most significant years in any of our lifetimes. And clearly, the noise is huge. Getting people's attention is very difficult. But at the same time, we have found a lot of desire among the policy community to hear what it is that we have to say. Because despite all of the noise, the impact that OR and analytics can have in how people think about developing policy or implementing policy or even measuring the effectiveness of certain types of governmental programs has actually been huge. And we've done that in a steady drumbeat. And before the pandemic, I would spend a lot of time in Washington with Informs members and with our consultants at the Signal Group, going up and down hallways in the various congressional office buildings, meeting with staff, meeting with elected officials, meeting with federal agency officials, sitting across the table telling our story. And like every other business, right, we had to adopt and evolve, and so did the federal government. So now we're doing the exact same thing that we did before, but we're doing it on phone calls, or we're doing it on Zoom calls. And it has been really effective. In fact, it has probably helped our ability to engage with our members because now, if we want to bring people together, we don't have to ask them to take some time to come to Washington. They can hop on a video conference or a telephone call and just as effectively share the type of information and begin to build the relationships that we're having.
Well, that's great. And then speaking of the opportunities, if you will, that the virtual world provides, now we know that Informs members are doing phenomenal work in their research and in their work activities. What kind of events and activities can they be participating in to really help broaden the reach of their impact of their work?
Yeah, it's a super important question, and we've been trying to share this through ORMS today and every other channel that we have. But Informs members can be involved in a number of ways. not everybody may want to talk to a member of Congress or a staff person. Not everybody may want to have a meeting with the federal government, but we have a range of things. So certainly we have those kinds of briefings, and we do them all the time. In fact, this year so far, we've had over 100 briefings on Capitol Hill in federal agencies, right? Whether they were in person at the beginning of the year or now digitally. But beyond that, we have a huge effort from the public relations standpoint, trying to connect our members and their expertise with members of the media. And we do that through pitching story ideas, pitching subject matter experts. And COVID certainly has created a tremendous opportunity for our members who are involved, whether it's in healthcare or healthcare supply chain or any of the other facets of the challenge today. But just by example, we've successfully worked with our members to place over 500 stories in the media this year. We've been able to place over 24 op-eds and columns in newspapers around the country. We've had folks in radio interviews and podcast interviews. And the podcasts aren't just the Informs ones, right? We've had 48 resoundingly human podcasts this year that I'd encourage our members to listen to and to reach out to us to talk about how they could get involved with that. And likewise, from an event perspective, before the pandemic, we were hosting periodic events on Capitol Hill. And in fact, we had one in February, shortly before all of this, with Ramaya Krishnan, past Informs president. And since then, as things sort of evened out and people began to pay attention to some other types of events, we've been able to successfully hold 2 webinar types of events, reaching the policy community as well, and we have many more of those planned. So whether it is doing briefings with policymakers directly, talking to reporters, engaging with us through our podcasts, participating in events, or even writing columns for ORMS Today and Analytics Magazine that we can also share with all of these other communities. There's multiple ways for people to get involved, and I'd really encourage them to do so.
Wow, that's just fantastic. And certainly the shift to this virtual world has really had a broader impact or opportunities to have an impact on policymakers. And really it's establishing Informs as being a formidable voice and a resource for Capitol Hill.
It really has. And these types of programs often take a long time to begin to build up the trust and the reputation and the confidence in the policy community. And I've been amazed at how quickly we've begun to do that in relatively a short amount of time. And that's completely due to our members, and not just the quality of the work that they're doing, whether that's in research or whether that's in practice, but their passion for the fields and the way that they're able to articulate the value proposition and the impact. They're doing so in ways that really resonate with lay audiences and decision maker type of audiences that are obviously very different than the folks that are inside of Informs often, right? So not everybody always does a great job of taking really hard, technical, mathematical types of content and translating it to the way that others can understand. But I have been so impressed and so grateful for the way that our members have been able to do that. It has made a huge difference, and I just can't ask them enough to continue to get involved for us. And we're doing this because we know at the end of the day, our members want to make a difference. And this type of work really can help expand their reach and their impact of their efforts.
Well, that's great. That's great. Anything else they should be thinking about when it comes to advocacy?
I know there's been lots of questions about the election and the pandemic and where things are going. And obviously, we've taped this a little bit before the November 3rd election. But despite that, and despite whatever the outcome is that as you're watching this conversation now, I can tell you that there are going to be exciting opportunities in 2021, whether it's working in a new administration or whether it's continuing to work on issues with Capitol Hill or in the media. The time is ripe to continue to push the impact of our members in their work. And again, my call to action to everybody is, please get in touch with us. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to help you take the next step in this regard.
Well, that's great. That's great. And you have a number of advocacy sessions throughout the meeting this week as well, too. So I think that's another great way to be able to connect and be informed. So, Jeff, thanks so much for being with us today.
Glenn, thanks for having me. Again, congratulations to you, and also congratulations on hosting a wonderful annual meeting, and we hope all of our members have had a terrific experience.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. There's more exciting meeting content to tune into, but be sure to check back later for a very special message from the Informed staff.